Good morning. Typhoon Nakri approaches the Korean peninsula carrying strong winds and rain. The nation is expected to feel the effects over the weekend. A ride at the touch of your phone. Uber is active in more than 150 cities across the world, but the Seoul city government calls the service illegal. And exercise is very important for health, but for weight loss, you have to control your diet. Matthew Chung has a few suggestions. Celebrity social networking. Celebrities on the social network are communicating with their fans in different ways. On Korea Today, Friday, August 1st, 2014.
From Arirang News, this is Korea Today.
Happy Friday, everyone. Thanks for joining us on Korea Today. I'm Ojin Ju alongside Kim Young. Now, with the midday high soaring up to the mid-30 degrees level, we just can't live a day without air conditioning. And overexposure to air conditioning could really make you sick or catch a cold like Young is right now.
That's exactly what's happening. I did leave the air conditioner on a little bit too low for a little bit too long. I woke up with a nasty cold a couple days ago, actually, and I've been taking cold medicine for that. So that is one of the effects that air conditioning can do. So they do suggest that you do keep the air conditioner on at a certain temperature and not over the temperature of about 27 or 26 degrees, right?
Right, between 22 and 26. And don't forget to take out an extra cardigan or something to put on and drink a lot of water and go outside time to time to get some fresh air. But besides an extra something to put on, there is another thing that you shouldn't forget to take out with you this weekend. Typhoon Nakri is moving northwest towards the west coast of the Korean peninsula, and the country will be under the effect of the typhoon starting Saturday. Heavy rain advisories have already been issued for the mountainous regions of Jeju Island as of this morning, with up to 300 millimeters of rain in the forecast there until tomorrow. And as the typhoon makes its way upwards, all parts of the nation will be seeing rain by Sunday. But for today, temperatures will remain high in most regions except for Jeju, with daytime highs hovering well over 30 degrees Celsius. Yesterday, cities in the Gyeongsang-Bukdo provinces saw temperatures soar above the 38-degree mark for the first time this year, with Gyeongsang seeing the highest at 39.9 degrees.
The ruling Saenuri Party won 11 of 15 parliamentary seats in Wednesday's largest ever by-elections, handing the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy a crushing defeat. Now, with that, the party's leaders resigned after just 4 months at the helm.
I take all the responsibility and will resign as party co-leader. I will work to make sure our party carries out major reforms to regain the public's trust.
Former independent politician and once political sensation An Chul-soo, who had ascended to party leadership after merging with the main opposition Democratic Party in March, said he too would resign and do his best for the party as an ordinary member. All other members of the party's Supreme Council follow their co-leaders out the door, assuming responsibility. The baton has been passed temporarily to floor leader Park Young-sun, and veteran politician in the opposition bloc and once a potential presidential candidate, Son Ha-kyu, announced his retirement from politics after losing his race in the capital region to a ruling party newcomer. The main opposition now has 130 seats in the 300-seat National Assembly, while the ruling Saenuri holds the majority, 158. And the property market in Korea is expected to begin seeing the effects of eased government regulations in the latter half of this year. The loan-to-value and debt-to-income, or LTV and DTI ratios, are being raised to 70% and 60% respectively beginning Friday. Under the eased regulations, an individual looking to purchase a home would be able to mortgage up to 70% of the property value. With a new DTI ratio, an individual would be able to receive a mortgage loan under a payment plan that mandates up to 60% of his or her annual income. But the new moves are also being met with concern, as some feel this may exacerbate the nation's growing household debt.
It's a service still foreign to many Seoulites, but it's catching on like wildfire. The smartphone app-based car service Uber has been in Korea for about an year now, and users have started to enjoy their smooth rides, even though it means that it comes with a steeper price. But this service has recently run into some roadblocks. The Seoul city government has labeled the service illegal and is looking for ways to block the app. Today, our producer Lee Ji-yeon looks at the debate surrounding the service.
Kim Il-min is a software engineer and startup business owner. He's also an avid user of the viral car service Uber, which landed in Seoul just about a year ago. With a simple tap on his smartphone app, Kim has a luxurious ride ready to take him across town. His personal pickups are usually reserved for special occasions when he wants an extra something for himself, and he says that's what makes the experience special.
The drivers are a lot friendlier, so it feels good as a passenger. And I like the final touch where they open and close the doors for you. That's why I enjoy using the service.
After launching in 2010, Uber is now found in more than 150 cities across the world. But the service is still relatively new in Seoul, and the premium black sedan service, Uber Black, is so far the only option available. But the Seoul city government strongly opposes Uber's service and just last week threatened to ban the app, calling it illegal. It says Uber is encroaching on the business of other taxi drivers in Seoul, and in other cities, cab drivers have staged protests against the smart service, saying they're losing customers. So how much of a problem is it in Korea's mega capital? We asked taxi drivers whether they know about Uber, and the response was
Uber?
no, no, and no. Only 3 out of 20 drivers were aware of the application. And it's not so much about Uber snatching up their customers, it was more about the legality of their cars.
They're using regular cars, so they're not vehicles licensed for business. They shouldn't be able to operate. It's illegal.
It's an argument echoing Seoul City's stance on the car service. But Uber denies this, saying it uses car companies already licensed for business operation. And users say those cars have been providing excellent service in a city where at times it's impossible to get a cab, especially in downtown areas late at night, or when the drivers are simply unfriendly. They say it's a comfortable, convenient option at your fingertips.
And that option, I believe, should be available for all citizens. And I don't think that necessarily takes the pie out of any industry, but we just create that option for that special need.
And while saying it will actively try to block the Uber service, Seoul says it will create its own app for cab drivers in the city.
The fact that there's demand for the service, even though it's more expensive, means there's a problem with existing taxi services. We have to accept that and adopt what's good and exclude what's not, to try to provide people with a better service.
Meanwhile, Uber says its goal for now is letting more people know about the service, which is still in its initial stages in the country.
People say new products must be tested in Seoul because the citizens of Seoul, they are very critical, they have very high standards. So in a city like this, I believe Uber should be accepted and should be able to bring the value that the company can bring to the citizens.
So the hope is more avid users will be hitching their favorite ride not on a curb, but on their phones. Lee Ji-yeon for Korea Today.
Happy Friday morning. It's time to run through the front pages of your newspapers. Now, the papers this morning are all carrying stories on the political scenes that have been unfolding since Wednesday's by-elections, mostly talking about the big defeat of the main opposition party. But we'll go ahead and take a look at 조선일보's top headline on a rather neutral viewpoint here. And this one is the top story. Now, the article is saying that the results of the by-election signal that neither of the parties did a good job with the running of state affairs. Rather, the results are giving a message to both the ruling and opposition, as the title says, public's request to overcome Seoul tragedy and create wealthy and powerful nation. So that is the public sentiment that seems to be reflected through the by-election's outcome. The paper stresses that the Korean people are asking for the political parties to come together and work together to rebuild a nation that has been suffering from concerns about safety management and a sluggish economy. Now, if you take a look at the subheadlines, they say that the leaders of the main opposition New Politics Alliance for Democracy have stepped down from their posts. And meantime, the chief of the ruling party also said that the party's victory does not stem from its own efforts and capability, but simply that the public has given them a second chance to recognize their wrongdoings and do a better job. Now, scooting over to Gyeongyang Shinmun for a look at this side story. And this one is on protection of personal information. Now, this is about the government's plans to toughen punishment for data breaches as part of efforts to better protect the public's sensitive personal information. And the header says, changing national ID number an option when subject to harm from data breach. So this is one of the key measures to fight against such information leaks. And as said in the subheadlines, the government is planning to allow those whose personal data has been targeted and leaked repetitively to change their resident registration number in order to prevent more severe damage. Now, specific details are to be released on this within the year. Moreover, the plan will require companies and other institutions that lose control of customers' private information to provide compensation of up to 3 times the value of any financial losses suffered. The government will also toughen penalties for those who steal personal information for profit by doubling the jail term to up to 10 years and the maximum fine to $50,000 US. Now, moving on to some business news. First, on the Korea Economic Daily, we'll take a look at the top story here. It looks like Kakao Corporation, the company behind the free mobile instant messaging application KakaoTalk, is readying itself up to launch a taxi business. The article is titled Kakao Taxi to Emerge. And as said here in the subheadlines, the idea is to establish a system through which people can call taxis via KakaoTalk and even check up on the driver's qualifications through a feedback system. Now, on top of that, users will be able to make mobile payments for their taxi fares. Now, you heard earlier on in the program about the personal pickup app service Uber, and the key difference between Uber and Kakao Taxi as of now will be that Kakao Taxi will use already existing cabs. Through this, the Kakao Taxi system aims to boost profits for cab drivers in the country, as well as seek efficient ways to coexist and foster business for the already existing taxis. And finally, let's have a look at the Mail Business newspaper for the story there at the bottom. This one is on immigration investment. The header says government to lower threshold on immigration investment for Incheon. Now, the Ministry of Land, Infrastructure and Transport is in talks to revise down the threshold on immigration investment for Incheon Economic Free Zone from $700,000 to $500,000 US. Now, this is in an effort to facilitate this investment immigration scheme that includes making unsold homes in Incheon into investment targets. The new threshold will be finalized around August and September in consultation with the Ministry of Justice and become effective starting this October. And that was a look at your newspaper headlines for this Friday. And now coming up are the stock numbers from Thursday. And today we're expecting another hot day in most parts of the region in Korea before, as you mentioned, Typhoon Nakri affects the whole peninsula in the weekend.
That's right. Strong winds are expected over the weekend, but for now, for today, I believe hot temperatures are awaiting us on this Friday. So we'll get a check on today's weather with Chun Sung-cho. She joins us from the Yongsan Family Park.
Good morning, Sung-cho.
Good morning, guys. I'm reporting live from the Yongsan Family Park. Hot tropical conditions continue on. Even at this early hour, temperatures remain at 25 degrees Celsius here in Seoul. Heat wave advisories have been issued pretty much all across the country, and this is partially due to Typhoon Nakri injecting a lot of warm, moist air into our weather system. Nakri is currently in the South China Sea, about 150 kilometers off the northwest coast of Japan's Okinawa. It's approaching the peninsula much closer than previously expected. It'll come up further north all the way, reaching the West Sea by Sunday, about 140 kilometers west from Gosan in Korea. We're facing a lot of rainfall starting tomorrow all the way until Tuesday morning next week. I'm talking about 400 millimeters of downpours in the southern regions and 100 to 200 millimeters in other areas with strong gusty winds. So flooding and downpours are a great concern. It has already started raining a little bit in Jeju, which will spread to other parts of the southern regions in the afternoon. And with that, let's take a closer look at today's forecast. There's a trend of lower midday highs toward the southern regions, such as Gwangju, Busan, and Jeju, all at 28 degrees, with Typhoon Nakri heading this way. All of the other cities continue to hover above 30, with Seoul being the hottest at 33 degrees Celsius. This is all from me with the weather forecast. Back to you, Jinju.
And time now for a look through the global headlines we're following this morning. For that, we turn to our Eunice Kim at the News Center. Good morning, Eunice.
And good morning to you, Junju.
Now, we have some breaking news this morning. A humanitarian ceasefire has been agreed upon in the conflict between Israel and Palestinian forces.
That's right. The United States and the United Nations jointly are saying that they have been given assurances that a 72-hour humanitarian ceasefire will begin on this Friday in Gaza, agreed by both Israel and Hamas. This has been confirmed by both UN Secretary General Ban Ki-moon and U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry. Now, this as a lull in the bloodshed had appeared unlikely earlier, with the Israeli military calling up an additional 16,000 reservists and Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu promising to annihilate Hamas's tunnel network with or without a ceasefire. The cross-border tunnels were being used to access and attack Israel from Gaza, and the Israeli military had said it had destroyed most of the 32 identified tunnels. Prime Minister Netanyahu said any ceasefire agreement that does not allow Israel to destroy the terror tunnels, in his words, would not be considered. Meanwhile, in its strongest words yet, the U.S. had called the shelling of a UN school in Gaza totally unacceptable and totally indefensible, and urged its ally Israel to do more to protect civilians. The United Nations had said a quarter of Gaza's population were displaced by the fighting and that it was running out of resources to support the nearly 250,000 refugees seeking shelter. Now, the death toll from the deadliest recorded Ebola outbreak has now exceeded 700, mostly in the West African states of Liberia, Sierra Leone, and Guinea. And it's in this context that the Director General of the World Health Organization, Margaret Chan, will meet with the presidents of the affected countries in Conakry today, where they are expected to announce an intensified response plan. The $100 million plan to fight the outbreak on a national and global level will send in more personnel and resources to supplement overstretched treatment facilities. Meanwhile, Liberia and Sierra Leone have now both declared a public health emergency, dispatching soldiers to quarantine stricken neighborhoods, banning public meetings for months, and closing down schools across the country. Almost half of the recent Ebola deaths have come from Liberia, where an American doctor and missionary are also being treated for the contagious virus. There is currently no cure or vaccine for the virus, which has a fatality rate of up to 90%.
Let's turn to some business news now. Argentina has defaulted on its debt payments after last-minute talks failed to produce an agreement from the country's bondholders.
Indeed, and it is the second default for Argentina in 13 years, and it stems from a years-long legal battle with two of Argentina's so-called holdout bondholders. They're U.S. hedge funds holding some $1.3 billion in debt, and they had rejected restructuring structured debt agreements in 2002 when the country first defaulted, which then, of course, blocked payments to other creditors. Now, the unsuccessful 11th hour negotiations did take place in New York City, with Argentina's cabinet chief now blaming the U.S. for the debt default, calling the mediator in New York incompetent, and saying his country was considering a case at international tribunals. Global ratings agency Standard & Poor's has downgraded Argentina's foreign currency rating to selective default. And with that, we'll wrap your look at the global headlines we are following this morning.
According to the World Health Organization last year, cardiovascular diseases were determined as being the leading cause of death across the world. Arrhythmia is one of those cardiovascular diseases that can eventually lead to death if not treated properly. And for over 15 years, a team of doctors have been focusing their efforts on finding new and better methods of treatment. It's these doctors at the Arrhythmia Center at Korea University Anam Hospital who are breaking new grounds of arrhythmia treatment in Korea.
A sudden irregularity in the heartbeat can threaten your health and sometimes even your life. Korea University's Arrhythmia Center was the first to introduce surgical procedures in the country and now boasts a high rate of full recovery in the world. It's at the tip of their fingers that people's hearts each day are finding a steady and healthy pace. Arrhythmia refers to a condition in which the heartbeat loses its rhythm and becomes irregular. According to the World Health Organization, roughly 17 million people died from cardiovascular diseases in 2011, and of those deaths, 20% were caused by arrhythmia. A patient who is unable to go about his daily routine because of this condition is at the Korea University Arrhythmia Center.
If I work too hard or do something too physical, it's hard to breathe. So that makes it really difficult.
The condition that Chung has is atrial fibrillation, where the atria contract very fast and irregularly. It's one of the most common forms of arrhythmia, but even with one bad heartbeat, it can be life-threatening or leave you with severe side effects.
Patients who have atrial fibrillation can suffer from a deformation in the heart, which can lead to renal failure, or there are higher chances of getting dementia and other diseases. That is why, these days, it requires more proactive treatment.
The most common method used for treatment these days is catheter ablation. This procedure was first introduced in the country by the Korea University Center 15 years ago. Catheter ablation uses a catheter or wire to remove each and every part of the heart that causes atrial fibrillation. The Arrhythmia Center at Korea University's Anam Hospital holds the largest number of cases for this procedure, reaching up to some 2,500 patients. In the case of patients who have had the condition for chronic patients of over 5 years, the rate is between 65 to 70%. For those between 2 to 5 years, it's 85%. And for less than 2 years, the rate stands at 95%. Also, no lives have been lost during these some 2,500 procedures.
The most important element is experience, and we have a lot of it. Using our teamwork, we continue to look for the troublesome areas that cause arrhythmia until we find them and can completely remove them. And the other important aspect is how you can comprehensively analyze the system. All of this comes with extensive experience, and that's what I think sets us apart.
Also, 2 years ago, the team introduced a new technology for the first time in the country that takes an umbrella-shaped device and places it around the left atrium to prevent blood clots. This helps patients who have to take anticoagulants by getting rid of any unwanted side effects. Always staying one step ahead of the game, the center is rewriting the history of arrhythmia treatment in the country.
There are a lot of different types of arrhythmia, but especially for atrial fibrillation, the more chronic it gets, the more deformations there are to the heart. So early treatment is very important. Our job is to identify the patients with high risks and remove the dangers to prevent sudden deaths from heart conditions.
And still ahead, with the sweltering heat comes shorter, more revealing clothes and a greater need to keep the body tight and slim. So how do you do this while still enjoying your meal? Well, with exercise, and Matthew Chung shows us a number of healthy ingredients and how to cook them up.
Now, we talked about how deadly and terrifying the Ebola epidemic in West Africa has become in our global headlines. But adding to that, there is a bacteria found in the U.S. that is claiming the lives of people. Our Arirang has more details on this. Good morning, Ms. Arirang.
Good morning, Jinji. That's right. So I'm afraid we have to start with some unpleasant things today. Virus and bacteria. First, flesh-eating bacteria. Sounds pretty gory, right? Well, it's just as nasty as it sounds, and in Florida recently, a third person this year has died from this, and health officials there are very alarmed. In West Africa, the Ebola virus is still raging strong. Let me show you why it's so hard to contain this deadly outbreak. For one, there are no vaccinations. Two, there's a latent period. In other words, there's a delay of a couple of weeks between the time you first contract the virus and the time when symptoms begin to appear. Now, this of course means that infected people can unknowingly travel and spread it on. And three, the local culture. In many of these affected villages, distrust of the government, distrust of foreign medical staff, and superstition is so deeply ingrained that it's very difficult to coordinate proper medical help. Now, back home in Korea, the JYJ membership week kicked off to a great start. Let's have a look. Now, what it is basically an annual fan meet, but it's some serious stuff because it usually attracts a humongous crowd of, get this, up to 20,000 die-hard fans from all over the world. Elsewhere, people are looking up the path of Typhoon Nakuri to see if they'll be affected, and if so, by how much. A memorial hall will be built for a famous Korean mountaineer who died 3 years ago. Park Young-seok is his name, and he was the first person in the world to accomplish what's called an explorer's grand slam. Now, what this means is that he's climbed the world's 14 8,000ers, the 7 summits, and visited both poles before anyone else in the world. And to honor him, the Park Young-seok Memorial Hall will be built in his old neighborhood of Mapogo district in Seoul. Now, they're making this place in somewhere you can have hands-on experience on everything to do with exploration. So it sounds like it'll be a good place to take your children for some fun and also to learn a couple of things. And with that, it's a wrap for today's edition of your Daily News Sum Up.
And still to come, there are more status updates, tweets, and blog posts coming from celebrities in Korea these days. Social media is becoming a primary tool for stars to keep in touch with their fans. We look at the trend and see who is big online.
We are nearing the peak of the vacation season, the summer vacation season. Many people are really getting ready, doing those last-minute sit-ups and crunches to get that bikini bod or that swimsuit body.
We really get the pressure of having to lose several kilos or pounds during the summer season. And today, Matthew Chung joins us to show us some of the dishes that will help us keep in good shape.
All right. Good morning, Matthew. It's too late for me, but anyhow, for our viewers.
It's never too late. And the thing is that this time of the year, you want to be able to eat well because, it's summer, you want nice, bright flavors, but that doesn't mean that if you're losing a few pounds, it doesn't mean that the food has to be boring. And it's because there are a couple of fantastic ingredients out there that you can be cooking with at home in order to make slimming, something fun. So why don't we take a look at some fantastic ingredients that make shedding those pounds a delight. In the summertime, there's no thick jacket, no heavy coat to hide behind. There's a reason why they call it swimsuit season. And in the summer, everyone is looking to shed a couple of pounds. But here's the thing, slimming down doesn't have to be boring. So let's take a look at some recipes that are low in calories, but high in flavor. So, our first recipe we're going to start off with, it's going to be a rice bowl that's topped with tubu and miok, which is a type of seaweed. So we're going to take our vegetables that go in here and we're going to start prepping these off first. We have a little green onion. Then we have some pyogo mushrooms. Some of these stems can be a little tougher, so be careful when you're pulling them off so you don't tear apart the entire mushroom. And then next we have the tubu. And now that's kind of the quintessential diet food. And it's gotten a bad rap because a lot of people think that it doesn't have any flavor, which is completely untrue. What it does is that it's able to take on other flavors very well. And one of the reasons why it's so highly regarded as a diet food is because it's high in protein, but it's low in calories. And we're just gonna wanna dice it up like so. Nice bite-sized pieces. And then we have the miok. And it's a great diet food too, just because it is packed with a lot of great nutrients and has a very low caloric density as well. And for those of you who might be a little squeamish about the idea of having seaweed, it's really good. Now, tubu and miok, they're a natural combination. Having too much tubu is not a good thing, but if you add a little bit of miok in there, it helps balance that out. So now we can start cooking. Here we go. Let's place our pot right there. So we'll pour in our stock, just like so. All right, so our stock is up to a boil, and we're gonna just start adding ingredients. The firmest ones first, the ones that take the longest time to cook first. So next, go in a couple of green onions and our pyogo mushrooms. And then it's time to add our miok right in there. And then finally, a little bit of tubu. There we go. And what we have here, we have a variety of them. We have rice, we have some barley, we have some black rice in there too. And what this is going to do, not only is it going to give you a variety of different types of nutrition, but it's also going to provide a lot of different flavor and texture. And after you steam them, it's going to look like this. And this is going to form the basis of our rice bowl. And that's it. Between the mushrooms, the miok, the dashima, this is a flavor powerhouse. Now, we have for our next recipe, we have a sweet pumpkin soup. This is it. This is what's known as the tanobak here in Korea. First thing we're gonna do is scrape out all the seeds and the pulp from the inside. So, here we go. So use a spoon to work it along the sides, and there you go. It's down like that. So remember, the smaller the pieces are when you start off with cooking, faster it cooks. So pan is hot enough, so in goes in our pumpkin. There we go. The pumpkin has just started to break down now. And you can smell just the way that it's just sweating off all those sugars. At this point, what we want to do is we want to just deglaze with a little bit of water and a little bit of milk. Just a touch. And to this, we're going to add our secret ingredient, the sundubu. While this might seem like an odd choice to add to a soup, basically, sundubu's neutral flavor and its smooth texture, it breaks down well in purees. So it adds a nice little hit of protein as well as adding to that sort of creamy texture. So into the blender it goes. So you're just gonna wanna work this until it's nice and smooth, which shouldn't take too long. All right, so let's just pop the top off and see what we got. And then we're just going to finish it with a little bit of olive oil and some pine nuts. There you have it. A simple sweet pumpkin and soft tofu soup. So this summer, don't stress out too much. Just because you're eating to diet doesn't mean that you can't eat well.
So we have the ingredients out in the studio that can help us in our diet.
I've always heard so much about these sweet pumpkins, and that they're so good for you, apparently, right? You know, I actually do like the taste of it all. But tell us about this and what kind of nutritional benefits it does have.
I mean, the pumpkin, it's a powerhouse in terms of nutrition because it does have a good amount of sugar in it, but it's balanced out by the fiber. So you know how they say that you should be eating a certain amount of fruit per day, and even though fruit is packed with sugar, it's that dietary fiber that really balances it out and makes it something good for you, and that's the case with the pumpkin here. And not to mention, it's also packed with a bunch of really great antioxidants and vitamins as well.
Right, and I heard that the sugar pumpkin also helps you to get rid of the puffiness you have in the morning after eating ramen during the
Are you trying to tell me something right now? Right? Just get rid of that puffiness and
and
straight at
also
you.
that applies to
Don't try to change the subject. Okay. But I had one question. Can you eat the cover too? Once
Absolutely.
Oh, okay. You can have the whole thing.
Yeah, you can have the whole thing. So, I mean, if you want to create something really sort of satisfying with this, all you need to do is just chop it up, scoop out the seeds, and then you can just roast it. And when you roast it, it brings out a lot of those really toasty caramel notes.
Okay, so we have also the beans and also the laver, right? I mean, the seaweed. What do you call that?
Yeah, it's also great about it too is that it has this really great brininess to it. It tastes of the sea, but again, virtually no calories in there, and it's one of those things that really helps you feel full, even though you're not taking on that extra fat.
Yeah, it's supposed to be very nutritious. My wife had like this every single day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner after we had each of our kids.
Right.
All right, last but not least, this is also a crowd favorite over here. Tubu.
Yeah, tubu.
And tubu, it's so versatile. You can do practically anything with it. If you press it, the texture changes. If you grind it down, actually, I have a fantastic recipe for turning tubu into essentially ground meat. If you cook it down to a certain point, it kind of falls apart. And if you add enough seasonings, say if you wanted to go Mexican, you could add like chorizo seasoning to it, and it gives it that extra flavor, and the texture is remarkably similar if you cook it down into small enough pieces.
Sounds great. I'm looking forward to taking some of these and trying out my own recipes at home.
I'll start liking these ingredients.
I better get used to it if I want to look good by not summer but fall at least, right? All right, Matthew, thank you very much.
Always a pleasure.
Matthew.
And TGI Friday, everyone, as we continue on with the ongoing search for the next head coach of the South Korean national football team. Now, with Lee Young-soo, the head of the technical committee, holding his two-day meeting with this committee, it's been revealed that the choice has been broken down to final 3 coaches. And just like it was expected, the final list of candidates were all foreign coaches, as Lee Young-soo and his technical committee will now look into different criteria before choosing from the final list. Now, he added that some of the things that they're looking into are experience internationally and with their club team, age, English-speaking skills, and so on. And while the names of the 3 have not been revealed, it seems the committee is on track to choose their next head coach in the near future. Now, speaking of selections, after Thursday, the 2018 Pyeongchang Winter Olympics Organizing Committee has a new chief, as Hanjin Group President Cho Yang-ho was elected as the newest head of the committee. Now, just 10 days after Kim Jin-sun resigned as the head of the organizing committee, Cho Yang-ho was elected on Thursday. Now, this, of course, pending the approval of the Ministry of Culture, Sports, and Tourism. Now, Cho was an important part of the bidding committee back in 2011 when Pyeongchang was finally given the green light to host the 2018 Winter Games. Now, he also has an impressive resume when it comes to sports administration, as he is one of the 3 vice presidents of the Korean Olympic Committee as well. And now moving over to baseball, where ESPN named the top 10 worst signing during the past offseason based on the numbers put by the players so far in the 2014 MLB season. And for South Korea's Chu Shin-soo, well, he's up there as well. According to ESPN, Chu Shin-soo signed a 7-year, $130 million this past offseason, has been listed at number 5 in the worst free agent signing so far. The article added that he's been sidelined by an ankle injury and has only hit .240 so far, with an on-base percentage of just .351. And making the top of the list is his teammate Prince Fielder, who was sidelined for the remainder of the season after signing a huge contract with the Texas Rangers as well. And now finishing things off with some Thursday night KBO action, the NC Dinos cruised past the Kia Tigers 9-1 with the Samsung Lions, beating the LG Twins 8-4, and the Lotte Giants crushed the struggling Tucson Bears 13-3. Meanwhile, let's take a look at the Nexen Heroes try for the sweep against the Hanwha Eagles. And of course, going into the game here, we jump over to the second inning of the game. Hanwha strikes first thanks to Lee Young-gi's RBI single to left, scoring Kim Tae-gyun as they take in 1-0 lead. But check this out, Chung Bo-mo drills this one to deep left, and there it goes, gone, a 3-run shot, and Hanwha takes an early 4-0 lead. Now, fourth inning of the game, here come the Nexen Heroes. Kang Jung-ho with an RBI single off the shortstop, and it's 4-1 before Kim Min-sung makes it 4-3 with a 2-run shot to deep center field. Now, fifth inning of the game, Park Byung-ho an RBI single to right, and we're tied 4-4. Eighth inning of the game, Hanwha up 6-5, Felix Pie, and there it goes, back, a 3-run shot as Hanwha extends their lead to 9-5. Bottom of the ninth, Park Byung-ho, and that's number 33 on the season, sparking a 3-run ninth, but the Hanwha Eagles hang on to win this one, 9-8. And that's going to wrap it up for me. This has been SJ. Have a great rest of the day, and see you guys again for your sports needs.
All right, we just had a look at the top 5 on the Korean pop music charts, and joining us is Denny Hong to tell us what's happening this week or what's happened in the last week in Korean pop music and Korean entertainment. Good morning.
Good morning. Among other stories that we have for this week, we actually have a new girl group that is coming out very shortly, as well as some overseas entertainment news regarding some singers and, of course, you know, their concert, attendance sheets. So we have a lot of things to cover. Let's get right into it. SM Entertainment is scheduled to put out its latest K-pop girl group, Red Velvet, this week with its digital single, Happiness. The album is receiving more attention because it was produced by the agency's founder, Lee Soo-man himself. Many fans are anxious to see what kind of girl group Following Girls Generations and FX, that's SM, will put out. A lot of K-pop singers have been wrapping up their performances overseas. Big Bang's Taesung just finished his tour, which started in June, where he traveled to 8 cities in Japan and attracted 170,000 fans. Following last year, he has become the first Korean solo artist to bring together 100,000 fans for 2 consecutive years. Shinhwa's Lee Min-woo also started his tour in Asia on the 25th in Beijing, receiving some heated response from some 3 million fans in China. From the beginning to the end, his concert was packed with things to see.
Yes?
The movie Lucy, featuring Scarlett Johansson and Jae Min-sik, has hit the top of the box office in the US in its first week since premiering. So far, it has recorded roughly $44 million in profits. It is also actor Jae Min-sik's debut piece in Hollywood, which is why a lot of local media have been keeping an eye on that, and the film is set to premiere in Korea later in September. The documentary Never Stop, which hit the shelves on the 16th, starring CN Blue, ranked first on Japan's Oricon chart for DVD films this week. The documentary follows the daily lives of the band CN Blue, and it includes their activities overseas, day-to-day situations, behind the scenes, and other aspects of the popular boy band.
All right, and we do have our SJ Lee, who's joining us here on the set here.
entertainment, not sports.
for
You know what?
today.
I guess sports and entertainment kind of go hand in hand, right? I mean, you open up a sports newspaper these days here in Korea, and like half of them is like
Right.
entertainment news. So it's good to be here, talk about entertainment.
All right, but speaking of entertainment, that movie Lucy, my goodness, you know, Choi Min-sik, he's such a versatile actor. He's shown prowess, he's shown his ability to just camouflage himself and transform into so many different roles. And I am really glad to hear that his debut in Hollywood is just going fabulously. Although there were some critics who were saying that maybe his role was not pronounced enough and that his role was a little bit too small or there wasn't enough of his face being shown.
Well, not having seen the film yet because it hasn't come out in Korea at the moment, but I would say that you got to realize who's the film's the main character, right? And so obviously they want to focus more on Scarlett Johansson, and I think if you compare time on screen with other villains, maybe get to see that when it comes out. Now, obviously, I'm a little surprised actually it didn't debut in Korea first, because usually these days you have the worldwide release here in Korea before you get into
So
anything
when's
like
the release date?
It's coming out in September. It's still not exactly sure, at least from my perspective right now. So I'm looking forward to it, though. I definitely want to see it in the theater, see it in big screen. And
We are too. Celebrities these days usually use social media and blogs to communicate with their fans.
We have our biggest social media user right there.
So
always
I'm so
Facebooking
guilty
everything.
of this. I'm so guilty of this.
All the pictures that we don't want on,
Right,
he puts it up
our
there.
pictures
I
on
don't know what you
his
guys are
blog.
talking about. I refuse to comment on this issue.
Right, and we saw Ihyodi's blog posting up pictures of her life in Jeju after her marriage, and Girls' Generation's Taeyeon and EXO's Baekhyun hinted on their relationship on these platforms. Could you tell us more about this trend?
Well, I think if you look over the past few years, it's become more commonplace for celebrities to be using social networking sites to talk about their personal lives and kind of narrowing the gap with them and their fans. If you look more farther back, maybe a decade ago, not so much. There was still more of that mystique, and so people are using social media more to connect, and so we're going to take a look at this trend.
누나? 근데 지금 뭐 하세요?
팬들과의 소통.
또 SNS 하세요?
Using social media platforms, more celebrities have been keeping a direct channel of communication open with their fans, whether it be a slice of their everyday life, a confession about a recent relationship, or occasional updates while they stay out of the public eye. Social media offers a better look into the lives of these stars. Actor Lee Min-ho boasts some 15 million likes on his Facebook page, ranking 16th in the world.
Through personal social media accounts, you can get information and see changes in society. Once you have a space where everyone is loyal to you, you can always use that platform for effective marketing communication.
Taeyang held a social media event, killing two birds with one stone, communicating with his fans and also getting better publicity. Blogs have also become another popular method of communicating with fans. More celebrities are sharing the details of their daily lives through these online updates.
That's something that people are very curious about. You know, they see him on the glitzy stage, but what do they do on their own time?
Exactly. Singer Ihyodi's blog, where she has been posting about life after marriage, has gone viral with more than 9 million people visiting after only a month and a half.
Wow.
Girl group Rainbow's Jisoo has also emerged as a power blogger by posting cute tips on cooking and simple craft work, as well as details on her daily life.
Conveniently, celebrities had an image created for them through media outlets. But now, with more stars running their own social media, they can get more fans by communicating on a personal level with them.
Using social networking sites and blogs, celebrities have more opportunities to share their thoughts with the public, and this has created a trend of so-called social tainers, who actively take a stance on social issues and voice their opinions.
Encouraging people to vote more?
Already on the global stage, stars such as Emma Watson and Angelina Jolie have actively used social media to participate in social and political issues. In Korea, singer Kim Jang-hoon is one of the more well-known so-called social tainers.
This is so touching.
Yang Yo-seo from the boy band Beast also sent a message to his fans by wearing a bracelet to support sex slave victims and posting a picture of it. There's also 2PM's Chansung and many idol groups known for proactively engaging in issues they feel are important to them. But as more celebrities embrace the social media trend, some have come under fire for misusing or abusing their online platforms. Girls' Generation's Taeyeon and EXO's Baekhyun, who recently went public with their relationship, were criticized for using social networking sites as their secretive dating platform.
In the case of celebrities, their lives are already open to the public, but when they choose to express more about themselves, they have to understand that it also can bring to the surface personal problems, which can be off-putting and bring criticism.
Celebrities have been narrowing the gap with their fans using various social media platforms, and with this comes more responsibility and greater transparency.
Now, social networking and posting things up on your Facebook account or Twitter or some of the other ones that we have here in Korea can really help you communicate with the fans, but it can also have some drawbacks as well. We'll be talking about that in just a little bit. But as for the Hallyu stars, you see a lot of them communicating with their fans around the world. Now, there is a language barrier.
Sure.
So how do they get over this?
Well, it's actually a little bit easier, I think, than you might expect. If there is a member in the group that does speak the language, and they are the main ones to communicate with that target market. And generally these days, you will have multilingual members in the groups, and so it's a little bit easier that way, at least in one method. Otherwise, they would study the language or maybe have other people help them to manage those, language barrier countries.
Your simple answer has made my question the stupidest question ever.
And also the entertainment agencies, they take care of the accounts, the social media accounts of the stars to overcome this language barrier as
right?
well.
And sometimes it comes down to maybe there's too much traffic, because sometimes if you think about just your own personal social networking sites, how many times you get updates on your phone? Imagine multiplying that by 10 million. And so that could be quite frustrating, especially if you have to just kind of get on with your day.
Can you see all of them when people are speaking to you? You just scroll.
Like Lee Min-ho, before he got big or Boys Over Flowers, he managed his own site. But then later on, you have passing it over to the agency to take care of it, just because I think it would just be too much for him to do. But at the same time, what they're doing is kind of adding more, what is he doing, his schedule, his routine, more so than his personal
It's not as fun, right? I mean, just like you said, like we've been seeing a lot of these big name celebrities. Usually they used to kind of promote themselves using these SNS, but as the agencies are kind of handling this, are there problems related to this, situation?
Well, the main problem is I think people are not really interested in what their schedule is like, because you can kind of find that almost anywhere. They do want to see more of the personal interaction, something like what do they have for breakfast, or these little things like photos. I think are more what the fans want to see.
So their personality comes out, right?
Exactly. When it comes to personally being managed, but when it comes to the agencies taking over, it generally becomes more of a PR campaign, and so there's also the risk of having the fake celebrities, people that are pretending to be the real person, and this does happen more often than not. So you have to find who the real celebrity you're trying to follow is.
That's right. You have those imitators, right, over there now. Let's go in the world of sports. We know sports announcers tweet a lot and get on the SNS a lot. How about the sports stars themselves?
When it comes to SNS, I think it's similar to celebrities, where there are some ups and downs. I mean, recently we've been seeing, we saw this problem with Son Yeon-jae when someone kind of opened up a fake account on Facebook using Son Yeon-jae's name, and everyone thought it was Son Yeon-jae. Son Yeon-jae actually had to come out publicly saying, I don't have a Facebook page and so forth, and you have to be careful with some of these people posting up these statuses using these celebrity names or star names. But, it's not always a bad thing. I love to follow some of these athletes because, like I said, their personality comes out and we know who they are off the field, off the court, and like Lee Hyun-jin, right? We always wonder, what is he doing outside of the baseball field? And he's always like hugging Juan Uribe, he's like joking around and stuff like that. And a lot of these sports stars, just like these celebrities, what they do is what they believe in. Or even like, I follow one athlete and there was a dog that was missing in certain town and he retweeted basically saying so-and-so is looking for their pet. And if you can kind of, if you've seen this pet, please give me a message, because as we know, a lot of people do follow sports stars and the message kind of spreads out a lot more. So they do use it for the good as well, but at the same time, you do need to be very careful about people
making
who...
statements on their Twitter. There were some controversies involving Ki Sung-young's comments.
Ki Sung-young is one of them,
others.
obviously. He's had a lot of problems, and also even Chung Sung-young, the goalkeeper of the South Korean national football team, kind of had problems as well. But hey, they have so many followers, right? And sometimes I'm jealous. I have 400 or something, and I wonder if anyone's reading mine. So.
And we are one of them.
Well, you have 400 more than me, so there you go.
Yeah, right.
And I think one danger that you might want to say is that if you are a celebrity and you post a lot personally, you have to kind of filter yourself, because a lot of times it's just easy to just say whatever's on your mind. Case in point, I think Western world-wise, Jaden Smith is probably getting a bit of a brunt, because I think he just writes what he thinks without realizing that it might come off a little bit unintellectual, right? And so sometimes maybe you want to have that mystique between the celebrity and the fans, as opposed to kind of narrowing it too much.
Well, I've deleted many a Facebook post myself.
I think I'm going to close my page after
Why? Leave it open.
Well, the bottom line is it's a great way to communicate, but at the same time, if you do overuse it, or if you do not think about what you're going to put up there, then sometimes you might regret it, right? All right, thank you, SJ, and thank you, Denny, for joining us.
No problem.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for this edition of Korea Today on our Friday edition. And our very own Kim Min-jung will be back on Monday morning, right?
Yay!
I hope. All right.
Have a great weekend, and we'll be back with Min-jung on Monday. Have a great weekend.
Bye-bye.